What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez's promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, has stated that priority after the Fielding fight would be Danny the Miracle Man Jacobs, which this is not too far off the beaten path. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, for these guys to match up. The newly crowned Danny Jacobs just, won the IBF a portion of the middleweight crown from Sergey Deverenchenko, which was a great fight. A lot of people gave Danny Jacobs slack for that. I don't know why. This guy was undefeated. He was an Olympian. He was tough. He was determined. They were both had the same trainers, and he still wanted to fight. So that shows you how determined he was to fight Danny Jacobs for that belt. Okay, so I look at that fight, Canelo, Danny Jacobs, is definitely a doable fight. I'm all aboard for it. That should be the next fight should happen anyway. If you guys can remember, De La Hoya once used Danny Jacobs as the okie doke, when the Golovkin negotiations were going back and forth early this year, right? Stating that they're going to move on and go with Danny Jacobs, and Eddie Hearn are going to work with Eddie Hearn and making that fight happen, instead of waiting on Golovkin. But of course, they made the fight anyway, So since Golovkin is out of the picture for now, they should continue the path. And the path would be the best middleweight there would be Danny Jacobs. Now, why would De La Hoya want Canelo to fight Danny Jacobs now? Maybe because of the performance with Deverenchenko, gave them a good barometer, because if you look at Deverenchenko, he's shorter, right? He's a more compact fighter, and that range was probably better. So if you replace Canelo in that ring with, instead of Deverenchenko, Canelo is around the same height as Deverenchenko, right? Danny Jacobs, he's a lot taller than Deverenchenko, but, he's seen how Jacobs fights smaller fighters, and smaller fighters can give him some problems, including a guy that's the ultimate smaller, shorter guy, more compact, Canelo Alvarez, right? So that would be a good test for Danny Jacobs, or vice versa, because Danny Jacobs is a boxer, but he does mix it up too. I look at Danny Jacobs as a bigger, souped up version of Austin Trout. You know what I'm saying? It's like having a damn Caprice, a 96 Caprice versus a 96 SS Impala. You know what I mean? Yeah, they kind of look similar or whatever. You would think that until you got in the ring with them, or you got side by side with one of them, and they showed you the horsepower or the punching power, right? You know what I mean? SS for Jacobs, and then Caprice for Austin Trout. But you could clearly see, that horsepower is a lot stronger, or the punching power is a lot quicker and a lot more swift and faster coming from Danny Jacobs, because Danny Jacobs does get crunk in there a lot of times. He kind of he throws these flurries, and then a lot of fighters don't really have flurries anymore. Sugar Shane used to do it. De La Hoya was famous for it. David Reed, another one. Roy Jones Jr., of course. He was actually one of those guys that were really good with flurries. You don't really see a lot of those. So I would like to see that fight, see how Canelo can handle a taller fighter, a guy with the reach difference, a guy that's strong. He's also has a high knockout percentage. People forget that, you know what I mean? And he is very talented, you know what I mean? And he's, his ring IQ makes it a lot different from Canelo, but at the same time, the fight looks interesting because Danny Jacobs likes to mix it up too. So this fight would probably be, I would think, a fight with Canelo and Jacobs would be one of those fighters of the year. Now, if you look on the political side of the whole thing, Canelo and Jacobs, they both fight on the zone. So there's no problem there. You know what I mean? There's no problem with making that fight. So it's not a thing on Danny Jacobs still with, Showtime or some other network and he's tied up with it. No, none of that. He's, Hearns and De La Hoya are probably the best, safest bet for people to negotiate with each other. And of course, this all depends on how good Canelo looks against a bigger guy. So, of course, he's with a bigger guy fighting Rocky Fielding. So, we got to see what he does then. So in reality, you would think that if Canelo does just, how would he do against someone tall like that? It could be a good barometer again to see how he would do against Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs, man, he's nothing to play with, and Deverenchenko just was that type of guy. But then again, Canelo doesn't cut off the ring either. So I think it would be more difficult for Canelo versus Deverenchenko, because Deverenchenko did come forward. He did force a lot of that action. Okay. So Canelo won't do that. Canelo is a counterpuncher, at times. So he's about an 85% counterpuncher a lot of times. He waits for his opportunities. So, you know what I mean? We have to see what happens. But we have to see what happens anyway when, Canelo is his first time on the Zone. A lot of you guys need to get that app, because I will be viewing it. I will be watching it. I have subscribed to it. And if you guys haven't had it, you can watch it for free for, the first month for free and stuff. So, that's big. You know what I mean? And, and Oscar De La Hoya, he's really determined to make some good fights now, because, they really have to make a good impression for this DAZN app to keep people on it. So to get their subscribers up, you know what I mean? They have to have a certain subscribers to make the investment worth it. Okay. So, but yeah, Danny Jacobs versus Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, I wanted to see that fight this year. Sorry. When I heard the good news with De La Hoya, when he did the okey doke, we're just going to move on. We're not going to worry about Canelo. We're not going to worry. Golovkin, we're not going to worry about him. No, we're not going to worry. And then they did the same thing because they were just trying to, bluff. They were bluffing Golovkin's camp or team or whatever. So, but I was all for that. I was all for it, because I didn't want to see a Golovkin Canelo too. I was one of the guys. I respect it. Of course I watched it and stuff. It was a great fight, but there was really no need for that fight again. You know what I mean? Like, it's like just like Tyson Fury. There's really no need for Tyson Fury to challenge Deontay Wilder again. You know what I mean? Deontay Wilder, yeah, it's more incentive for him because, I think he has to prove something. But, but I feel the same way about Canelo and Golovkin. There's really no need of it. Golovkin beat Canelo. He outpointed Canelo, and it was a draw. Cool, walk away, right? So I was looking forward to seeing someone else, right, that Canelo can fight in the middleweight division. Because if you guys noticed, Canelo hasn't fought another middleweight since he's fought Golovkin. He's only fought Golovkin, that's it, twice. Let's get somebody else in there. Now he's fighting Fielding at 168. He might be stronger up there. He might pull a Vinny Pazienza, might get a lot bulkier, might get a lot more powerful, and he might be in the wrong weight class. So, and I think and they want to see that to get another option. So in case, the Charlos and, all these other guys that want to, Andrade, and these guys want to challenge him and force his hand, and he does look good up there at 168. He could stay up there and say, I want to fight Uzcategui. I want to fight Caleb Plant. I want to fight the one out of those guys. I want to stay up here. I feel better up here. You know what I'm saying? So it just creates more options on top of getting another belt in another weight class. So he has more marketability on top of making all that freaking money from DAZN. So it makes sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. Canelo's in a good position right now. But I do think he does need to fight another middleweight. I think that. I feel that. He should. You know what I mean? Let's see what he does with someone else besides Golovkin. Someone else with a different style. You know what I'm saying? So, but of course, again, I look forward to see what happens. I look forward to seeing what happens Saturday night. Of course, I'm going to cover that fight here in a little bit, give you my prediction video on the Rocky Fielding and Canelo Alvarez. That's coming soon. So, of course, you guys, please subscribe, stay tuned, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.